Welcome to the Nerd Party.
I'm Darren Moser,
I'm Philip Gilfus.
I'm Daniel Prue.
and this is City Alpha 3.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SETI Alpha 3, Star Trek podcast here on the Nerd Party Network. I am professional Star Trek talker Daniel Prue, and joining me as always are my two lovely co-hosts, Darren and Philip. Hey, guys, how was your week?
You getting paid for this?
In exposure.
In the company of good friends. That's what I'm getting paid.
There you go.
Oh.
There you go.
The real money is the friends we made.
Is a star to steer her by.
Now, this is going to be sort of self-whatever. But so what Star Trek did I do this week? You seem to ask with your eyes. And what it is I listened to our sister show, Punch It. They were talking about retooling or punching up, as the podcast is called, The Trouble with Edward. So I certainly recommend that to folks. I think Tristan and I have some contrasting ideas about what kind of people Starfleet Academy is graduating. But he's not here, so, I won't go into it.
Yeah, and I watched a YouTube video. I posted it in the group chat. I don't know if you guys caught it, but it was someone basically just comparing the scenes from Trouble with Edward and the scenes from the Barclay episode where, we're introduced to him and Geordi's kind of pushing back, and Picard's like, no, he's part of your team. Like, he's a established officer. You need to reach out to him. And just that comparison. And I'm not trying to say this is this and that is that. I am saying, though, that I like the version of Trek where I could relate way more to that. Because we've all been in those situations, maybe not to like a Barclay level, but like where we fell out of place or we felt like, that imposter syndrome or something like that. And I'd rather feel that, hey, in this future, your coworkers and your boss or your supervisor come alongside you to help make you a better person instead of just, oh, I'm going to transfer you. You're not my problem anymore. And at its core, that's, I feel, the biggest difference between the Barclay arc and the Edward arc is, I laughed a bit at Edward. Like, there were some funny moments, but at its core, what message it was trying to give barely through the jokes. Like, it was not the message that I really care for.
Yeah, we talked about it, and it's like, we talked about it last week, and he is just a malicious character. Like, Barclay is awkward and goofy, but he's also a good guy and like wants to help. And this guy is just terrible and awful and the worst. And there's no redeeming quality there. So it's hard to even, you question, how did this even happen? How did this person even get to this station in life? Because it seems
It was a ship, not a station.
Well, yeah, that's true. There are stations on a ship.
A large runabout, perhaps, maybe.
Well, and also that I thought what Tristan and Shar, the direction they were going in, is if you changed it, because they kept like 80%.
Yeah, what was
of it,
their
which
big
is fine.
change? Because I didn't get a chance.
If you change it to a comedy of errors on Edward's
so
part,
best intentions
instead of him,
but everything just went
and
wrong.
so he accidentally knocks over a thing.
Yeah.
So he accidentally mixes it in his DNA, or he accidentally breeds them pregnant, and he accidentally
instead of just being maliciously unethical,
that could be way funnier, like
psychotic, and sociopathic and all those, so.
And his name was Edward Sherman.
So I didn't watch any Star Trek this week, but
I was going to say one last thing. Sorry. Because I know you're going to take everything over, and that's fine. No, but one thing. This is just a random thought, because I don't know how much you all YouTube in your daily lives. But as a Doctor Who fan, I do watch a lot of Doctor Who fan videos. Like, because there's a lot out there, and they're all good. They're set to, people know what fan videos are. But, they're set to music clips from either a lot of new Who or they're put together. It's all very good. There is a dearth of Star Trek fan videos. Like, I know Star Trek has fan videos, but when you say Star Trek fan videos, that's like people doing their own Star Trek. But there's not a lot of like fan videos of Star Trek.
I mean, like
you
re-edits and compilations and tributes and stuff
Exactly.
like that. Yeah,
I just don't.
I've seen some of those.
But I just don't see a lot. So if anyone listening, if you have like those ones where the music playing and quotes and clips and stuff that makes you feels and all that stuff, send them to me because I don't see any. And there's a million Doctor Who ones that I enjoy and love.
It's interesting. I wonder why. I suspect it has something to do with the subject matter, but
Or it could also be just people stay away from using footage due to copyright because it's CBS and the way they treat.
And I wonder if that's the reason. If it's literally
or
just to CBS.
I think it would be a factor.
Prime factor.
yeah, maybe.
Well, I mean, because CBS, they want to make it very easy for you to watch their movies through their platform, right?
Oh boy,
Philip?
Hang on. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Hang on. I wanted to say something because slightly unrelated, but there's a video game came out this week called The Outer Worlds. Really silly, fun kind of. I guess the closest. So what it reminded me of was had a lot of. I was going to say Serenity, but Firefly charm. So I was playing it with my friend, and I'm like, there's a lot of Firefly in this thing. We should watch Firefly. So we watched the first episode of Firefly, and
Had they never seen it?
No. Yeah, no. It's my old roommate, and he's not a science fiction guy. So, we watched the first.
much like Fox.
Yeah, we watched the the first episode, and I had a really interesting experience doing it because it was nostalgic, but I enjoyed it, and I thought it was good, but it was also like I was nitpicking it, and I don't know why. I'm not really sure why I was nitpicking it, but I was like, oh, hey, I never noticed that problem or that issue or whatever. And I was like, I don't know what my problem was, but I never had that experience where I kind of went back to show somebody else something, and I started seeing all the things wrong with it. I'm like, oh God, I hope he just laughs at Captain Reynolds' jokes and all this sort of stuff. So, but it was still good.
Well, what would be like a specific nitpick? Like, what do you mean?
Oh my God,
like
I'm not even
like a plot hole.
Yeah, like plot
Or,
holes, basically stuff like
okay.
that, or things that show jumps you right in, deep end and everything. Doesn't care.
You better know
I mean,
Chinese. You're gonna be lost.
You get the Battle of Serenity Valley, so you
Right.
have a little bit of context, but that's it.
Yeah.
And then they're just like, we're
You
on
gotta
a
fill
ship
in all
and
the
we're,
gaps.
and we're floating through. I wonder if part of that's just that not like new nostalgia, but more like when you're watching something like that for the first time, you kind of give it a pass because you're just absorbing everything.
Yeah.
But there's also the fact that storytelling, like that was great storytelling and peak storytelling at the time, but television has progressed and gotten a lot better since that came out. So I think that kind of helps show the cracks a little bit. Maybe that's a thought.
Yeah. Yes.
But I was
This
interested-
game has. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I had tried watching the first episode with my wife Jessica a few months ago. I mean, it's been a little bit, and I think she fell asleep. But I mean, I don't. She was. I think just she said she was willing to try again. But which is because I think Firefly, even though it is obviously if you're doing a genre, it's a sci-fi show, but it's not. I mean, I mean the whole sci-fi western. I'm not even talking about that. But I mean, it's a drama. I mean, yes, they're in space, but I mean, very little is teching the tech or
That's normal at that point.
they just happen to be where they are. Like you could tell that story anywhere, and that's not a thing. But I think Joss, he tells stories. He doesn't necessarily make it sci-fi. So, in other words, what I'm trying to say, it's probably an easy show for even people who aren't sci-fi. So I'm interested if I can try that again with her.
Yeah. It was interesting because there's two characters in this game that feel like they're ripped straight from Firefly. There's a innocent, cutesy Southern lady mechanic, and that's the first thing that popped out to me. And I'm like, oh, okay. She's like, I can fix anything with it, that hums and whatever. And then there's a complicated, interesting sort of not what you would expect preacher type character. He's actually
right.
he's
I
like
love Shepherd Book. He was so good.
Yeah, he was. Oh, too soon.
And so unexplained.
Yeah, and it's so, and it's got a lot of that same vibe. It's very Western in space sort of thing. It's very It's an interesting game on that.
It's a Firefly ripoff.
No, it's got a lot of different, like, it pulls very heavily from a couple different sources.
Total ripoff is what you're saying, of everything.
It's like Fallout meets Mass Effect meets Firefly is what I would say it is.
Oh, wow.
Very interesting.
That's a good sub.
Yeah. But anyways, neither here nor there. Let's start talking about some Star Trek. And you know what, guys? I don't know if our listeners know this, but we're pretty much looking forward to Picard. I think we're all pretty excited here.
Say what?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about something that seems to be a big element of the show, or not of the show. Well, yeah, of that show, but obviously makes sense to be a big element. And I want to talk about Data.
Data?
Yeah. And so we see Picard is we don't know exactly what the relationship is at this point, if he's being haunted by Data, if this is some sort of hologram. We don't know if he has like,
positronic ghost.
He's just seeing things. He's hallucinating.
Is there a bird? Are you the bird?
So I actually kind of wanted to start there before we did. Basically what I want to kind of deal with is Data and his legacy. But I want to start with his death. And I was thinking about this earlier, guys, and I'm going to throw this question out to you too. Did Next Generation handle any deaths properly?
Oh, wow.
And if so,
that's the question we're getting asked.
What?
I love that framing. That was a left field question, but I love it.
What was the best death in Next Generation? Because I can't think of. I'll just let you answer the answer. I don't even want to taint the question. I just want you guys to think about it.
When
something.
the exocomp sacrificed themselves for his other brethren, that was handled pretty well. Gosh, yeah, Jesus, death. Oh.
Because I'm going through the list, and at first I thought Kalar, but then I'm like, not really, because that's a good character, and we just killed her. I mean, you can argue some feminism theory here, but they just killed her just to, Ward, here's a son, we moved, but she's a good character. That was kind of a waste. And then so Yar, obviously that's its own thing. Mostly you're going to say no. With Data, that's what we're talking about now, so we'll skip that. I don't know any other deaths. People
are still upset about Kirk. That was Next Gen too, so.
That's true. I
was thinking of this isn't a series regular or anything, so it's a little bit of a pass. But I was thinking Lol is a really effectively done death. And to tie that into the Data thing as well. But it feels like it's more misses than hits for TNG, I think.
Right. I agree.
Which is just interesting.
Well, okay, here's an interesting death. And so I think it's a good death, and that is, I'm blanking on the, not too short a season, but it's whatever. It's Half a Life.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Troy and her boyfriend from MeSH. We don't see it, of course, but obviously heavily implied that he commits ritual suicide. But was a very poignant episode, and that was
yeah. No, I agree. That wasn't, and even like with the Lol thing, it's like, but can you think of like an actual impactful, meaningful death outside of like the scope of an episode, like with the characters, kind of important, and it's just like it seems that they fumbled the ball. I think more often than not.
I felt that, could they have done it better? But I felt like they certainly kept the Yar legacy. I mean, you could have just been like, she died, we'll never, it was first season, we'll never talk about her again. But, she is, her legacies, they still talk about her from time to time. So, whether it's a hologram from Data or whether it's, a sister or whether, they kind of don't ignore her death. Like the episode where
I agree.
The Most Toys, where they think Data's dead and Worf has to take over, and Troy has to counsel Worf about, you now have this thing of where you keep taking over for dead people. That can't be good. But
yeah. No, I agree.
I wasn't thinking about that, but now I am, counselor. Thanks.
Yeah, they definitely handled Yar's death pretty good, I think. But okay, so anyways, all that being said, I don't think it's a stretch to say that Data's death is not looked at with as much reverence as something like Spock's death was. I think that people generally probably are. I think there's a general negativity around Nemesis anyways, but Data's death in particular in that story and in the movie maybe doesn't work. And I want to talk about why do we think that is, and how does it make us feel? What do you guys think about that?
Well, it's interesting how you brought up Spock's death in Star Trek 2. And again, not being, well, I was going to say not alive. I was alive, but, you know, I was like 3. But anyway, not knowing what the actual fan reception was to that. But at the same time, they're parallel in that they so cheated, right? So you have, oh, Spock died. Wait, what's the coffin doing? Credits roll. Okay, wait, hold on. What are we doing here? And then with Nemesis, it's like... And with Nemesis, it's like, Data's dead, but B4's humming the tune still. And so it's all like, okay, what, you know, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know people...
No,
Go
I'm
ahead,
just...
Darren, if you have anything to say.
I don't know. It's just one of those things where, you know, I think that there's one thing in writing to kind of like leave a door open. You know, it's like, oh, hey, well, this, you know, this thing was like this, or, you know, whatever. But it kind of, you know, it's the same thing with like comics. It kind of cheapens it a bit if like characters can never die, you know, and we don't have, you know, any opportunity to actually, you know, be sad about it, because it's like, oh, well, just have them come back, you know, whenever the plot demands it. I don't know.
And here's the thing too, you know, with what you were saying, Philip, I think it's less egregious with Spock because the stuff at the end feels like almost like what we would consider like a post-credits scene in Marvel. Like it feels like that is just extra. It does. I definitely agree that with people who say that it kind of undercuts the ending because you're like hinting that he could come back, whereas it should just be lost at that point. But half of the plot of Nemesis is about replacing Data in the story already. Like there's an extra Data, and oh, we're going to put Data's memories inside of the extra Data. And then it's like, well, why should I be sad that Data dies at this point? We have a new Data right here. And
I'm almost imagining the Spider-Man meme.
Yeah.
Data and B4 pointing at each other.
And so it's already like half the point of the movie is to remove any emotional impact that has. So I don't... You're right out the gate. I think you're in a bad position.
And it seems like, and again, I mean, we don't want to, well, I mean, maybe we do, but we don't want to overdo this, but, you know, so I always assumed Nemesis was like, because, you know, I lived during this portion. I was a semi-adult during this point in my life. I think I was in college. But anyway, you know, Nemesis was billed as the last one. And I kind of get this thing from the more I hear that they were like, but I mean, if it was really successful, we would have done another one. But I'm like, yeah, but it was billed as the last one. So that would have really been stupid. But anyway, of course, you didn't really treat it as the last one. But anyway, the point is, it did seem like a checklist thing. Okay, well, it's the end. Someone's got to die. I mean, no, do they really? But anyway, and so, and then how do you do it? And then that's, I don't know. I mean, because then it's like, well, who else? You know, if someone had to die, who would it have been? And, you know, obviously, for it to be meaningful, you want it to be one of the popular ones. No offense to other characters, but, you know, so. But anyway, I mean, like if Picard had died, right? You know.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I've heard people say that there seems to be like this popular opinion that it's like, seems appropriate for Data to die here. And like, to complete his journey, I guess is what people like to say, which I think is silly. Not everybody, you don't have to kill yourself. You sacrifice yourself to be human. I don't get that sentiment. But if you're going to do it, if you are going to kill off Data, this isn't meaningful in any way. This doesn't do, it feels just empty. It comes out of nowhere. It's like a 30-second thing cut. Like we just saw him surviving in space 2 seconds before, but okay, whatever, that's fine. Then he just puts the thing on there and then it's just gone. And that's it. And it just feels empty. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it meant anything. It didn't have any weight behind it.
And as far as what you were saying, Daniel, I was thinking about this too this afternoon when I was rewatching it, about this argument that like, oh, he's the most human. I'm like, okay, dying is the most human. I mean, we all do it, but Does that mean every character is not human until, like you say, they sacrifice and kill themselves? But then I was thinking about this a little deeper theory, and this kind of went me down a rabbit hole. So the situation is there's Picard and Data, and Data saves Picard, obviously. And then Data blows up, and that's it. Spoilers, right? But anyway, so here's my thought. What is the right answer? Like, in other words, who should survive? Should it be the captain or the crewman? Who's more important? Because this thing of like, oh, that's the most human thing. And I know he has the emotion chip at this time, but isn't it almost less human? It's almost robotic. I know he's not a robot, but almost a utilitarian logic circuit that it's not actually human to sacrifice himself. It's him going, I'm programmed to do the most value, and the captain has the most value, and so therefore I must save captain and sacrifice myself. That's not a human trait necessarily. But then I was trying to argue, then I really went down the rabbit hole. Like, if you're in Starfleet Academy Command School, like, what do they teach you? Like, I'm sure, don't make anyone die. But if you had to, what's the basic thing? Is it that you have to save your crew as the captain? The whole captain goes down the ship. Or do they teach people, like it's the whole Riker corollary, don't let the captain beam down because he's the most important, or her, whatever. So anyway, that's what I was thinking. Like, who should have survived that scenario, Picard or Data?
I mean, it depends on like from whose perspective, I guess is like it's Data took an action in that moment that couldn't be reversed in any way. So he made that, he was the agency in that situation.
If he did, though, because I mean, again, if you're saying it's the most human, I mean, the argument would be maybe it's the most android, and then what's the logic circuit? Which way does it go?
Right.
Because it's not an equal. with the Doctor and the EMH where he goes crazy because it's the two people are equal with the whatever. But this isn't an equal situation.
Right.
So what's the right answer?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. It's just, to me, this situation didn't feel any more dire or disastrous or incredibly suspenseful than any other that they've been in 1,000 times before. Data would have sacrificed himself for Picard in, God, I forgot the name of the pilot, but
Counter at Farpoint.
Counter at Farpoint.
Counter at Farpoint. Thank you. Like, he would have done this same thing. This isn't emotional because it's not.
He would have taken that jellyfish sting.
Mm. So you're saying that because Data hasn't grown in that emotional capacity, that his death is less impactful than it would have been in the very beginning?
No. I think it.
Sorry. Yeah.
I think it could be, because I think we have seen how much Data has grown, but this isn't a reflection of that growth in any way. This is just some random situation that happens to them. If it was like a situation where, like one of my favorite lines that Picard ever says when he tells Data that sometimes you do the right thing and you still lose. If it was like that, if it was somehow tied into something like that, where Data learned something and then had to make the conscious choice. But this isn't.
Well, he does ask before, like, did you learn anything before after you died?
So I don't know. Good writing could have salvaged that situation here, but that's not what we got. So
I guess I don't know if this is the deeper question.
Data, I think there's probably plenty of ways to do it, plenty of satisfying ways to do it. I just don't think this was one.
Because I guess then the question is there a Star Trek death that you would hold up as the Latinum standard? They're like, okay, this is how you. No, so like, in other words, and I'm not saying you're saying this, but if you're saying Spock in Star Trek 2 was a good one where he sacrificed himself for the ship, I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, I don't think people say like, well, Spock completed his journey. That was the most No, he sacrificed himself for the ship because that's just his character. I mean, that's his thing. But
yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's an interesting topic for another time, talking about deaths and
I thought that was this topic because that's.
Yeah, no, we're just talking about Data's death specifically. So,
which is the opposite of Data's day.
Yeah, no, I wonder, because we all know there was that scene that we didn't. Well, yeah, it's like
we did see.
Yeah. I mean, because we have the great scene with everybody all kind of like remembering him and whatnot, but it's like if we had a little more and gotten another scene where we saw this really more impact, I think that could have been interesting, as opposed to, not that we didn't get enough, but it's like, would that have changed the overall impact if we saw more of his friends mourning? Something like that.
A little more character development, a little less Argo, I think is what you're talking.
Little more conversation, little more.
The thing I when I was watching it, the thing that struck out to me this time was how blatant the obvious parallels between Picard and Shinzon and Data and B4 were. It feels sloppy. It just feels real sloppy.
Well, watching it this time, and maybe this is just meandering. So, I know people know this, but let me go through the numbers here. So Riker's, off in bottomless pit land, whatever. So he's not there. Picard beams over to the Scimitar. And I mean, this is in the story, but I guess I never thought about it. So Data's in command. He's captain. He's acting Captain Data. And then he's just like, screw it, we're leaving. And so he's like, Counselor Troy, you're in command. This is how far are we gone? And so it's now the captain sacrificing himself. Because again, I was thinking about this whole. That's why I was on this whole thing. Like, who has, what's the right answer? Who should survive? So then, Picard just made this decision, which probably people didn't agree with, to beam over. And then Captain Data's now like, what? I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go over. Fates be damned. And so. Yeah. Then I was starting to Daniel was thinking about nitpicks, and I was like, man, what are the odds the ships were exactly lined up? And
he didn't even have the cool holographic space tunnel technology that Kirk gets in 2009.
I'm thinking even the evacuation.
Also, I thought it wasn't
of the Discovery, where it's like.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah. No.
I was like, well, it wasn't even a great effect. I mean, I don't know how much money Nemesis had, but for some reason I thought it had more, but maybe just that whole, like, when Data's, like, falling and grabs something, I'm like, well, I can tell how that was done.
They had enough money to put some silver plywood on a four-wheeler. So,
put them on a wire. Brent, just catch it. We're good.
Okay, so that's, I think that's enough for the actual act of death for Data. I want to talk about...
Also, just quickly, I love how they have to, as a story matter, do everything. So it blows up. Everyone on the Enterprise bridge obviously has no idea what just happened. I mean, they knew it blew up, but like, what happened? And so, like,
Picard's
it's
dead,
interesting because I don't think they realize
over there.
Yeah, and then they're like, "Oh God!" and they're like, "Oh, there he is. Picard's behind us." Okay, and then they're like, "Oh, Data," and he's like, "No." And then Riker comes on, and he's like, "Hey, why is everyone sad? We won, right?" And Picard's like, "It's Data." Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
okay, I'm on board. I got caught up.
Cue beard cry in 3, 2, 1.
That like scene like is pretty common. It's a common trope, I think, in fiction where
the shock
like,
reaction
a character,
of the immediate death.
Well, no, like two characters enter a dangerous situation. One comes back, and everybody they exchange glances, and everybody just knows. Or they'll say the character's name, like Data, and then they're like, and then everybody just reacts. It's like,
yeah,
tell me what happened. I mean, even if he died, I want to know. Like, what happened, man? I gotta.
Riker's like, I just spent like going down this bottomless pit
like
with this guy I finally had to kill.
This is like lesson 3 in Star Trek Academy training. You learn the whole I check, who is dead. I make the special gesture and look at you, and then if you say someone's name, I just know they be dead.
Okay, so I want to move away from the actual specific death now, and talk about the future of Data. Now, in the Countdown comics, which were canon for the Kelvinverse, which are now possibly canon for the Primeverse, Data basically reemerges from the consciousness in B4. Even if that's not the case, we will have to deal with B4 because B4 is canon. So my question to you guys is, do we think Data did re-exist, or do we think B4 was around? How do we think Picard's going to handle it, and how do you want Picard to handle it?
I don't think I understand the question. Are we saying we feel that the Data we see in Picard is the reemergence of his mind in the B4 body.
No, we haven't even gotten to the data that we've seen in Picard. I think that's a different data. I'm talking about the actual data.
Who's dead.
Right, but we know from the Countdown comic that he comes back in B4.
Right.
He reemerges in B4
Okay.
as Data. Now, that either happened or didn't, but even if it didn't happen, B4 is around, or was around. Does that make sense?
Got it. So there was a
following me?
span of time after Data's death where you had B4 and his interaction with Picard, and then after that, based on the comic, there's Data's reemergence in the B4 body.
Right.
Okay.
So do we want them to acknowledge, would we want them to retcon it and B4 was just doing some B4 silly dopey thing? Or do we want Data to have lived and possibly died, or just he's still alive?
I don't see why they can't just keep it the way the comic did. I mean, that made sense. The whole reemergence in B4 is what they kind of set up in Nemesis. I don't really see how else you could have Data come back except for that. Unless they find another Noonian android and then...
Apparently they're all over the place.
Apparently. And then, have B4 upload that portion of it. But that just seems like an extra step you don't need to do.
Okay.
Well, are we going to be consistent with our Starfleet values? Because, and I'm not saying you in particular, but you in particular, but also the audience. Apparently, we don't give a flip about B4, right? He can die, whatever. Bring back Data. Like, in other words, this is like a Tuvix situation.
Or similar.
Do we want to kill B4?
It makes me think more of Sim.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you people start to like B4, but then it's like, oh, but Data could come back, but you have to die before.
Yeah, I mean,
I
this
would argue,
consciousness-
and we could get into this because this is kind of a dense topic.
That's what our podcast is all about, Daniel.
I would argue that this is a very different situation in the fact that Data is both in Similitude and in Tuvix. You're dealing with actual consciousness, actual human beings. This is
Human.
this is gonna
Even
be
the
very
name
severe.
is racist.
He's very rudimentary.
Okay.
He could be considered just a robot. So,
Well, and I think
don't
it's
know.
going to
So
get
you're saying
even
he doesn't pass
spicier
this-
because apparently there's, and at least based on that trailer, there's something going on with androids.
yes, yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess either way, the show is going to have to acknowledge this. And my question is, I agree with you, Darren, where I'm like, okay, fine. Let's stick with the easiest route for the writer's sake. Let's just say that they say, okay, Data did come back. We still have to now acknowledge what happened to Data. What if they re-kill him off screen between the time before Picard comes out? And how unsatisfying is that?
So you're
gonna
saying
be?
they basically say Nemesis didn't happen and we're going to kill
No,
Data
no,
in
no,
a
no.
different way?
They can't say that.
No, I'm saying Nemesis happened. Data becomes B4.
Okay.
Then dies sometime between the end of Nemesis and
Okay.
he re-dies.
Right.
Because if what you're Daniel's saying, if he's alive in the comics, he should be alive in Picard, and it shouldn't be a situation. But Picard seams to treat, and again, we have like 3 seconds,
True.
but seems to treat that Data's still
Well,
dead.
I don't know. I didn't necessarily get. I can see how you could see that painting in the field scene as Data's dead, but you could also look at it as a nostalgia. Like, he's painting like he did on the Enterprise D. They're wearing the Enterprise D uniforms.
Wait, hang on. Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, you think?
No.
You think he just dressed
No,
up?
no, I
like-
think
like,
he's having a vision. I'm saying his.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
saying,
okay,
No,
okay.
I'm still saying he's having a vision, but I'm not. Yeah.
They're LARPing.
I thought
don't
you
know
were
what you would call
suggesting
it.
that Data
No,
came
no.
down. And they all put on their old uniforms and hung out and had a picnic.
This is the weirdest reunion ever.
Like, Data's had brain damage, and he only remembers everything up to the Enterprise D.
Oh, it's a
He's
future
missing
imperfect
those memory
situation.
engrams. He's just holding them in his hands. Like, no. I think it's a vision or a dream or something. But I'm thinking it's a dream of a past time and a past morality, and not necessarily that. But I mean, I could also see your point of view, like where it's implying that he is dead again. I never really took it that way.
So you think? I mean, I'm just surprised because to me, I doubt that they're. I mean, you know how Brent is, and he's already they've already talked about how he's only in it for an episode or two or whatever. But you actually you would think that it's more likely that he's out there somewhere still, Captain Data or whatever, and he's still just doing his own.
I would say, I think the most likely thing is he came back through B4, but whether or not, whether or not.
How many does it take, Darren?
So I think he came back through B4, but then that's where, because that's a continuation more of Nemesis than a matching up with the comics. At that point, like, I'm just setting the comic aside and I'm being, okay, Data came back in some form, whether he came back full speed and he's a captain now, or he's just there, like he maybe is off on a planet, or maybe he's not in Starfleet, or maybe something else happened to him. Like you said, I guess I hadn't really thought of him dying again. That just seemed overtly complicated.
I assume the captain's rank is honorary.
No, if you die,
he went through
you automatically
all of the training.
If you die, you automatically get promoted. So
no, but if you die in the dream, you dry. Oh,
well, in the Ship of the Line book, which I haven't brought up in a decade or so,
oh boy,
Picard worked hard to make sure that the crew of the Bozeman were given seniority based off of their original year, regardless of the time change.
Oh, that's
so.
Sweet.
But then he kind of Bozeman used it again, or Bateman used it against him to get the Enterprise, but outrank him because he had massive seniority. But
if Data is captain, I hope, and he's not captain of the Enterprise, I hope he's captain of the Sutherland. And
that guy is still there. He's still a lieutenant.
He's still there.
He will promote him. Harry Kimmed him.
That would be awesome. So what do you think, Philip? I mean, this is a complicated situation. The writers have to deal with it. They're obviously including Data. So what are they
he's
doing?
only
I thought
a
he was
dream.
dead.
Unless he's literally only a dream. Like,
but even if he is, they have to acknowledge that he died,
right?
Or exists. That's the thing. They have to. I think
they're gonna before Philip says, like, I think they're gonna have to acknowledge him existing because we obviously have android stuff in play.
Sure. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Because I think obviously from a writing standpoint, it's more fun to play with a Data legacy than a Data. Well, I mean, it's more fun to play with the Data, but you know what I mean. If Picard is his show, it's because it's called Picard. There's more to play with there with the character of having to deal with dead crewman's legacy versus just the crewman. That's who's right there. I know they're not going to do this, and obviously, I honestly, feelings about Nemesis aside, I hope they don't do this. But there's almost an instinct there to ignore B4, and just be like, Data died. That's the character we all know and love. That's how we're going to deal with it.
Yeah, I think you can't. I mean, I agree with you.
I mean, you can.
It's going to be B4 against F8. That android we saw, the F8 written on his forehead. That's how it's going to go down.
The thing is, they'll even if they want to go that route, Philip, I think they would put a line in. They would just say B4 retired to Ryza, whatever.
It's got to be
retired.
It's got to be
what was he doing?
Scroll at the very beginning of the first episode, like they did in the 90s. In the year 2935, B4 retired peacefully to Ryza subadject moon.
Now, this is what I want to see. When Picard's on the vineyard, and you just see, like, B4, like,
menial
moving the
work.
tractor. I think you missed over there in section 4, B4.
So B4, you just took B4 as his own private servant. Literally the opposite of everything he fought for.
Well, according to Daniel, he's not a person, so it doesn't matter, Darren.
Picard, how the mighty have fallen.
That. I said if we want to get into it, we can, but I'm not. But here's the thing, too, and I agree with you in a way that could be kind of convenient. But this Picard is clearly dealing with the fallout from this. It's dealing with Soong-type androids on some level. And Data, they're both going to be major plot points. There's no way they could ignore that situation.
And maybe something comes up that draws his attention,
the Romulans.
and then he realizes it like, oh, the Federation's been developing Soon-type androids and not telling anyone, and then that starts to give him flashbacks of Data. Like, that makes sense.
And the
Right.
factory where they're building these androids is located right behind Jupiter. And,
I'm actually guessing it's inside the broken down Borg cube.
Something's going on there
Like,
for sure.
Like,
yeah,
I would not be
could
surprised if that's the android factory.
That'd be interesting.
using Borg technology for
Maybe the Romulans got hold of B4 or Data or whoever it was and are now replicating them. Who knows? We don't like this could go anywhere. Of course, this could go anywhere. So it's I mean, we're obviously doing a lot of speculation here. I don't want to do just broad speculation on the Picard stuff. We can only base what we've seen so far. And all we've seen so far gave me the distinct impression, and I think it's supposed to give the viewer the distinct impression that Data is gone. That there's no Data. Because
So maybe that
Picard's
Data never
shocked.
came back.
Yeah, not that he never came back, because he could have come back and still died again.
See, again, I think easiest answer. I think either he reemerged in
Occam's
B4
razor.
and he's off somewhere, or he never really came back and he died in Nemesis and that's his death.
and before retired.
Maybe
Before, comma RET.
Yes,
dot.
yes. Forcibly retired.
maybe he did come back, and Data and the Enterprise vanished, disappeared on some crazy mission,
Ooh.
and of course that
Now you're teasing season
yeah,
2.
it leaves it open.
And Q is
Maybe
somehow
something like that.
involved to bring them all
The
back.
search for Data. But Data's shuttle
Data
is being
shuttle,
detected.
get it.
And
Well, here's a question, Daniel. Are we going to see Commander Maddox?
I hope so. I really
or
hope
even
so.
if we don't see him, I want his name dropped. I want something of like the Maddox Project or something, because he would have
died.
been at the forefront of whatever they're doing. And he was younger than Picard, so him still being active at this time makes sense.
Picard outlived everyone.
Patrick Stewart's got that thing going. So
Because again, as I was saying, from the story writing, or from the story standpoint, the character standpoint of Picard, I mean, I don't think, and I thought this is maybe where you were going to get, Daniel, with all this. To me, and again, you can read a lot into this trailer, but I'll just go. There's an implication, and maybe it's only of my own implying, that Data is being wistful about Data, or Picard's being wistful about Data. But, years have passed, and I don't mean to, not just because someone dies and 20 years pass, you forget about them. Of course not. But he doesn't have any reason to be personally, I don't think, regretful. Picard didn't do anything. I mean, there's no reason for him to blame himself about Data's death. I mean, I suppose as a captain, if you want to have that sort of mantle on your shoulders that everything is responsible, but you're not God, so whatever. I don't think there's any reason for him to be, tortured or reflective about Data dying, other than, this companion of his who died. But I almost feel like that there is, and again, maybe this is me putting it on the trailer, this thing about like, when Picard's in his older age and suddenly being recalled back to active life, thinks about his regrets and then twice thinking about Data. But I was like, there's no real reason to be doing that.
Yeah, I don't. It's weird because the only bit we've seen with Data is intentionally nostalgic filled, memory laden, this really intense, surreal vision. I guess we don't know.
It's like when
prophecy.
they're playing poker, or maybe I'm making that up, but when they're playing poker, is that a holodeck program? Because if it is, why choose Data? Because that's a little tortured, right? I mean, not that people want it, but I don't know how healthy Counselor Troy would say if you had holographic representations of dead friends and relatives. I mean,
If we wanted to go full unhealthy, we could pretend that Picard is dressing up before like Data and having him play out something like, no, of course that'd be.
Or maybe we're all wrong, and that's B4 in all the trailers.
Could be. Why would he be wearing a 30-year-old Starfleet uniform?
Oh, I see what
And
you're saying. Maybe
he
that
calls
part.
him Data.
Maybe that part is Data.
So I'm
Yeah.
trying to recall. Was it the main Picard trailer? I don't remember pieces of Data. I maybe I need to watch it again, but like I don't.
Oh, there were
I don't
pieces
remember.
of
Yeah,
data.
that's right.
I don't remember other shots of Data besides the vineyard.
There was the vineyard. There was I think it was the second trailer. There's a part where it's or maybe it's the first one because it's the very end. Because it's almost like
where
the
he
data
asks him
shot.
about
'Cause I think
continuing the game or something like that. That's right.
exactly. That's why I think he's playing poker in the holodeck. Now I've made that up, but
Yeah,
that's what
no,
I
that
thought.
makes a lot of sense too. Come on, Picard, get here. We need answers.
So, but I mean, it is interesting because obviously from a next generation standpoint, Picard's your popular. People can argue, but I'm just saying Picard's your most popular. Data's your second. So you're going to show Data, but you're not going to have him as a featured player for whatever reason. I mean, for good or for ill. So, but you got to as we're all talking about, you have to wrap that up. But then, of course, the not that this is a debate, but then the additional corollary is people are going to be saying, well, what about Beverly? You got to wrap that up too, as in as much as Data's death. And so, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. Again, it's tough to go on such limited information, but they're basing a lot of this, it seems like, on Data. And obviously, like, what we know is, like, Brent's only in an episode or two or whatever. So I think you're right, Philip, where they're probably dealing more with the legacy of the character. My question is, a year ago, or however long it's been, I guess it probably was probably 2 years now, before Picard was ever announced, when we used to just imagine that they would have a Picard show, and we would just dream like, oh man, it'd be awesome to see
Animated.
It'd be great to see all these characters again. Do we like that Data is a big part of this? Do we like? I mean, how would we have wanted them to handle this? If the character died in Nemesis, even if as ineffective as it was, is this a good way to kind of bring back a beloved character for as much as we can tell? Obviously, I don't know. I'm kind of torn on it. Like sometimes I'm like let him be dead, and then sometimes I'm like, well, obviously he's a major part of Picard, and of course you want to include as much of that as you can. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's a really difficult balancing act. What do you guys think? Do you want to see Data in every episode of Picard? Like, what do you guys want?
I mean, I feel like Picard, and I know they know this. I mean, but there is a fan service line. But I know which way I would like him to lean on that line. I would, and I mean, I'd feel like I'm speaking
all
for
the way
everyone here,
over.
but you tell me if
There is no line.
Exactly. No. Well, and I mean that once you start saying, well, Brent's in this, and Jonathan's in it, and Marina's in it, even if it's for 2 seconds, but they're in it. And then Jerry, but that's Voyager. But then it's like, okay, so now I'm just thinking about who's not in it. Why isn't LeVar in it? Why isn't Michael in it? Why isn't Gates in it? Why isn't Wilt maybe in it? I mean, Ball of Light. But so then it's like you're choosing, and then I don't like that we're choosing, because I mean that's kind of what you're saying, Daniel. If Data's dead, then he's dead. Why are you choosing to bring him back in whatever form? Because that's a choice, and then you're not. That means you're not choosing all the other characters, and so and it's fine. Look, this is the first season. Maybe the second season Gates shows. Whatever. That's fine. But once you scratch that fan service scab, then it's gonna start itching, and now we got a lot of things to talk about here.
What do you think, Darren? How much is too much? Or is this borderline? Are we nervous about it?
I feel I'm not as worried about it because we know there's a season 2. We know there's probably going to be multiple seasons if this is as popular as we expect it to be. So I'm trying to look at it patiently as so far as, okay, there's going to be multiple seasons. There's going to be multiple chances to bring in other characters and other people. Yeah, in Picard season 5, we're going to look back on those 5 years and be like, oh my gosh, like look at all the stuff they did. But I couldn't imagine them putting all that in the first season. Like that's where I'm not kind of worried about it.
They made him regenerate and brought in another actor.
And it was Matt Smith for some reason. So,
hey, that would be pretty cool, actually.
But yeah, so I think I'm not as worried because I'm just gonna. At the end of the day, yeah, we're all excited, but we also really want a good story. So if they're telling a good story and it takes 2 or 3 years to get through all of the main crew showing up in some capacity for an episode, I'm fine with that, if that's the way it's going to go. But I definitely want to see as much of them as possible. I want to see, Voyager members, and I want to see DS9 members. And I mean, that's the big thing about Trek is it can tap into this 50-year history with actors that are still around. Do that, they don't have to be, I mean, just like Nemesis. Look at Nemesis. I mean, the fact that Janeway shows up for 2 seconds and is the admiral that sends him, like, that's fan service right there. It didn't have to be Janeway, but we're glad it was. So
almost wasn't.
I'm hoping they're thinking, oh, in this case of episode whatever, yeah, it's like whatever. It's like, why don't we just have have it be this character? Why not? I'm trying to remember, what was it with Janeway? Did they decide?
They wanted Jerry originally. No, they wanted Jerry originally. Oh, yeah, and I don't know why, but they wanted Seven to show up because.
Oh, they wanted Jerry Ryan to order them. So they wanted Seven?
No, to be in the movie somehow, be a cameo.
Oh,
yeah. And to what you were saying, Philip, I think what I would consider this too. Like, think of it as like any random episode of Star Trek where something from think of the Pegasus, where Riker, his old comrade shows up for one adventure, one episode, and this happens all the time in Star Trek. So it makes sense for this to happen still to Picard, that only one of his friends or two of his friends show up for this adventure, and then later on we get more of them.
Yes,
so
Worf.
The cool part about this time is we now know them because in other Star Treks it'll be like, oh, it's an old girlfriend, but this I'm like, no, we know who Beverly Crusher is. We that's cool, that's great, But I think and this is, I know, a tangent and you could talk for hours, but by it being Star Trek Picard and not Star Trek whatever featuring Patrick Stewart in the leading role, in a good way, possibly, I think you have to keep things tied. Well, you don't have to. I believe if you call it Picard, you have to keep things tied to what we've been saying to Legacy Trek of bringing back characters. Now, again, not every episode, by all means.
I mean, there's a
because
ton
in other
of
words,
new
if they had called it
we obviously see that.
Yeah. But I was saying if they had called it something else, I could see it being almost a platform for another crew. So it's
Star
Picard
Trek
and the newbies.
Gambit.
Whatever, yeah. And so, maybe Patrick Stewart is there all the time. Maybe he's not. Maybe it's like the West Wing. Sometimes the president's not in the show. But because it's Star Trek Picard, it was like, well, now, we can have new crew and that's fine, but it's obviously not their story. It's in the title. It's Picard. So you can't change that unless you're going to...
Or can we?
He has a son or a daughter, and then it's about them, I guess.
Yeah, and we've talked in the past about this, but I do think that we know very little about the show still, and they're holding their cards close to the chest, and I think I am not going to be shocked when we get 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 10 more cameos than we're planning on, or that we know about.
I'm hoping than that. I'm really hoping they.
I mean, how many people are already saying,
of...
Q in season 2, right? And it's like, there's zero indication of that, but we're all like, why not?
And I think, and this is a broader pop culture discussion, but it seems to me there are usually very little casting surprises anymore, like in anything, movies or TV. It's all like, oh, here's who we got.
What are you talking
Please
about?
watch.
John Harriman was the biggest Switch casting surprise. No, it wasn't. We all knew.
But I mean, but I'm telling you, that comes up. Like, they don't hide the ball about like, oh yes, Gates is in episode 4. Haha, see that, which I would love for that to happen. I would love, but they don't seem
That's
to
true.
operate
It's
that
like
way.
if they haven't told us
here's
now,
everyone who's
why
coming.
would they surprise us with that later?
I mean, I want them to, but they don't seem to operate that way anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see. I mean, we didn't know. Well, yeah, I guess we'll see. That's a good point. On the other hand, it could be like interesting marketing, like shock marketing. Like, oh my goodness, did you see who was in last week's episode of Picard and that sort of thing? But well, I guess we'll see.
Which I could see if she was in like one episode only.
saying, I know. I know. It's like I'm not in the business, but like I know Twitter, and that Twitter stands for a lot of things. But in the Twitter age, things just leak out. There are no secrets anymore. But like, and this isn't my ball. This is y'all's. But like the whole like, oh, Matt Smith's going to be in Star Wars. It's like, but we don't know what character or whatever. But anyway, but it's like, why does that, you can't just be like, oh, you're just watching the movie and like, hey, that looks like Matt Smith. Oh my God, it is.
Yeah, who's Matt Smith playing, Darren?
We don't know. He's in. Well, people aren't even sure if he's actually in the new Star Wars movie.
All right.
But everyone's bet is either cloned or young Palpatine. That would be fun. Is the running theory.
That'd be fun. Okay. Anyways, that's not what we're talking about. Let's wrap it up.
You guys brought it up. I don't know.
Well, Data clone is basically B4 at the end.
That's true. Okay, so we don't know how Picard is going to
anything about Picard. Zero.
No. But what we know, I would say, that Data's death has been not particularly well handled. So I hope, and I look forward to Picard and seeing what kind of interesting ways that they're going to weave it into the story, because it's obviously kind of important.
One thing, sorry to interrupt you, Caitlin. I was just thinking about this. Because we're obviously diehardies, right? But in and look, I know it's been a long time since Star Trek Next Generation was on the air. It's been a long time. Like, it's been a long time. As much as we think it's been a long time. So, like, the general audience for TNG is older, at this point. So, but my roundabout point here is, do people, general audience, who they're hoping to bring in, not just our diehards, do they know Data died?
They may not if they didn't see that movie, which, according to the box office, a lot of them didn't.
Even if they didn't, you can't just, you couldn't ignore it. Like, knowing that fact, you can't just ignore it,
But you have to explain it.
Yes,
don't you?
yes. I do think
that's
that
what
it will.
Daniel's saying. I think that you have to explain it one way or the other.
Well, that kind of goes to my point. Like, even if you acknowledge Data as a character, you have to not only like acknowledge it, but you have to explain to all the people who are watching the show, including many people who've watched like 3 episodes of TNG and never seen any of the movies. You kind of have to give them a recap. You kind of have to be like,
previously on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Star Trek. Or maybe they just
we
refer
must
to
move
Nemesis
quickly
as the
if we are
gas
to
leak movie.
prevent a Klingon civil war.
Yeah, no, there's absolutely going to be some sort of exposition where somebody goes, "Oh, Data, the character that served on the Enterprise for 7 years," or whatever. No, and in that moment,
this scroll is going to be like 3 minutes, isn't it?
And in that moment, they have to acknowledge he was killed aboard the Scimitar, and then he came back as B4. Like, it's going to be sloppy and ugly because it's a crazy situation. Okay. Any
That's
final
what you
thoughts?
missed
What
on
do you guys,
Star Trek.
anything else to say about Data? I feel like we've covered. Yeah, I feel like we've covered a lot of ground here.
We've covered Data from D to A.
Freeform. Nice. Okay.
So, duh.
Which is Russian for we're done.
All right. We're calling it. All right, folks. If people want to get a hold of you, Philip, how would they get a hold of you?
They can talk to me about all the wonderful ways we can explain all of Star Trek in 5 minutes at the beginning of Picard. On Twitter, my handle is @NCPublicServant.
And Darren, if they wanted to talk to you about your Matt Smith theories, I guess you could probably talk to Philip about that too, because he's probably got some. Oh man, what if he played the Doctor in the new Star Wars film?
Oh,
anyway,
gosh.
sorry.
Think of how crap the search engine optimization would be for that role. You wouldn't be able to find it ever.
How would they get a hold of you?
They can find me on Twitter, Twitch, or Instagram under username Dr. Sci-Fi, DRSCIFI.
And if people want to talk to me about all sorts of Picard theories, they can find me on Twitter @OneUpDown. That's the number 1, as in the number of the month that Picard comes out in. Not the word. So, yeah. So I guess we will catch you guys all next week. I'm Daniel Prue.
I'm Philip Gilfus.
I'm Darren Moser.
Stranded here on SETI Alpha 3.
Come!